How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Nun Zayin, Daf 57 of Masechta Kiddushin. Friends. Yo, friends. Alright, today we're going weiter on these things that are Asur Bano, that you cannot be Mekadesh with, and if you sell them, so then you can use that money to be Mekadesh with. So, that kind of stuff. Okay, we're going to start in Daf Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. Be'egla Rufa, about at the two dots, like 7-8 lines into the page, on Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. Be'egla Rufa. Oh, so you cannot be a fellow cannot be Mekadesh a fellow with an Egla Rufa. An Egla Rufa, we're going to talk about a little bit more in just a few minutes. But an Egla Rufa, be'etzem, you find a dead fellow, and so you take a calf and you kill it, and that's kind of the Indian, and it's Asur Bano. So how do I know that it's Asur Bano? Because it says by Egla Rufa, Kaper Lamcha Yisrael. So kapara is like korbanos. Korbanos are kochim, are hektish, and they're Asur Bano. So oichit Egla Rufa is Asur Bano. Tzipori Mitzorah. So the birds of Mitzorah. What's the birds of Mitzorah? Who could tell me? So Mitzorah is a fellow who gets leprosy, and he's got to stay outside of the camp for until it goes away, Batson. So when it goes away, so then the kohen goes out to the leper with two birds. He kills one, dips the other together with Eitz Erev, Azov, and Shni Tolas, and they sprinkle it on him and stuff. And then so they kill one of the birds and they send one of the birds away. So that's the Tzipori Mitzorah, these two birds. And then after that, a week later, or really 8 days later, he then brings some korbanos, including an Asham Mitzorah. So that being the case, so Minolan, how do we know that the birds of Mitzorah are Asur Bano? Titan Tver Bishmo, stop at the Besmedish of Bishmo, Nemar, Machshir Mechaper Befnim. So Machshir, right? Machshir is these things that make these korbanos, that make a leper now able to come back into the camp. So that's the Machshir, and Mechaper are like other korbanos. So that bring kapara. So nemar machshir mechaper bifnim. So on korbanos that are offered in the temple, in the Azara, in the Beis Hamikdash. So you have machshir, right? Things like the asham mitzorah is one of the korbanos of mitzorah that allows him to come back to the camp. Umechaper, as well as other korbanos bifnim inside the Beis Hamikdash. V'nemar machshir mechaper b'chutz. And you also have the tzipore mitzorah, which are offered outside of the temple, right? The kohen goes out to the leper with these birds, and also mechaper, right? That the Egla Rufa, as we mentioned just a few minutes ago, that it says Kaper Lamcha Yisrael. So it says, and those are things that happen outside of the temple. The Egla Rufa, the Tzipori Mitzorah. So machshir mechaper omer b'fnim also bo machshir ki mechaper. So just like there's no distinction between an asham Mitzorah and any other asham in the Azara. So also af machshir mechaper amar b'chutz also b'machshir k'mechaper. So also the machshir and the mechaper outside of the Beis Hamikdash, the tzipori mitzorah and the egla arufa, we treat them the same as well. Meaning, just like the egla arufa is asur b'hana, so oichit the tzipori mitzorah are asur b'hana. So there you have it. Tzipori mitzorah are asur b'hana, just like the egla arufa is. Itmar tzipori mitzorah me'imosai Asur. At what point do these birds of the Mitzorah become Asur, right? So meaning, you have the kohen, he takes these birds and he brings them out to the leper. So at what point do these birds become Asur Bano? Is it from the time that the kohen, I assume it's the kohen who's taking them, or is it at the time that the kohen kills one of them? Right? Meaning, do we say that at the time that the kohen takes them, from that point they're already Asur and Bano, and then he kills one of them, it remains Asur Bano, but then he sends one away, and then that one becomes Mutar Bano? Or do we say, we can see it's Machlokas, or do we say that it's from the time that they're not Asur Bano, only once he kills one of them, that one becomes Asur Bano, and the second one that he sends away remains Mutar Bano. So, Rabbi Yochanan Omer Mishas Shchita, so Rabbi Yochanan says it's from the time that the kohen slaughters one of them. At the time that the kohen slaughters one of them, that one becomes Asur Bano, and the other one you send away, it's Mutar Bano. Rish Lakish Amar Mishas Lekicho. Whereas Rish Lakish argues with Rabbi Yochanan. He says no, it's from the time that you take that the birds are taken from the time that the birds are taken, they are asurin ba'ano from that point. Rabbi Yechanan Omar misha shchita shchita u'da'asrila. So Rabbi Yechanan says it's from the time that one of them is slaughtered. It's the slaughtering of the birds that then make it, asur within the context of Tyrus and Mitzorah. Rish Lakish Omar mishas lekicha me'egla arufa nafka. Whereas Rish Lakish says that that's from the time that the birds are taken, because we learn out the Mitzorah, the Tzipori Mitzorah from the Egla Arufa. My Egla Arufa mechayim, half Tzipori Mitzorah mechayim. Just like the Egla Arufa is already asur ba'ano when it's alive, not just once it's killed, but already once it's alive, it's asur ba'ano. So oichet, the Tzipori Mitzorah are asurin ba'ano from even while they're still alive, even before one of them is killed. The Egla Arufa gufa meimosai, and by an Egla Arufa, at what point does it become asur ba'ano? Is it from the time that it's taken, or at some other point? Rabbi Yanai says, Rabbi Yanai gvul shamaiti ba v'shachachti, says Rabbi Yanai that he had heard, he had heard the point at which the Egla Arufa becomes asur ba'ano. However, he forgot. Says Rabbi Yanai, he forgot. V'naz ben chavrai v'lomar, but the bnei yeshiva in the yeshiva, the people in the yeshiva, they said, Lomar, they said, Yuridas l'nachal esin hu osartis. From the time that they lead it into the barren nachal, what's a nachal? Like valley, I guess, kind of thing, like a lower grounds, I think. So at that, once they lead it to this sort of barren valley, I think, so at that point it becomes asur ba'ano. So ima egla arufa mishas lekicha lo mitzvah tzipori mitzvah nami mishas lekicha lo mitzvah. But fact the Gemara, Rish Lakish, you said that the tzipori mitzvah are already asurim ba'ana when they're alive, and we learned that out from the egla arufa. Now the egla arufa we just said is not asur ba'ana from the time that it's taken. At the time that it's taken, it's still mutar ba'ana. Only once it's taken down to the Nachal Eisen, at that point does it become asur ba'ana. So let's say that oichet, by the Tzipori Mitzorah, they are not immediately asurin ba'ana from the time that they are taken. So the thing is, there's a difference between the Tzipori Mitzorah and the Egla Arufa. By the Egla Arufa, there are actually different phases. There's the time there's the phase that the Egla Arufa is taken. There's the phase that it's led to the Nachal Eisen. There's the phase that it's killed. Whereas the Tzipori Mitzorah don't have all those phases. So therefore, the only phase that there is when it's alive to sort of hatch it on would be when they are taken. Hacha, when it comes to Tzipori Mitzorah, there is no other kind of point at which you could say at that point it is asur ba'ana when it is alive. So rather, if we're saying that it's asur ba'ana when it's alive, just like the Egla Arufa is asur ba'ana when it's alive, so the only sort of objective point that we have by the Tzipori Mitzorah would be when they are taken. So Rabbi Yechanan has a kasha on Rish Lakish called Tzipor Tahora Tochelu. So the pasuk says that any pure bird you may eat. Lirabos as mishulachas, that comes to include the bird of the Mitzorah that is sent away. It is able to be eaten. It's mutar ba'ano. It can be mutar ba'achila, mutar ba'ano. You can eat it. V'zeh asher lo sochlu mehem. And this is what you don't eat from them. L'rabos comes to include es hashchuta, the tzipor mitzorah, the bird of the mitzorah that is slaughtered. To say that you cannot eat it. So we have these psukim saying that the one that is sent away you can eat, the one that is killed you cannot eat. Now, if Rish Lakish, you're saying that already before one of them was killed, from the time that you took it, from the time that you took these birds, they were already asur ba'ano. Obviously, after the one of them is slaughtered, it's going to continue to be asur. Why do I need a pasuk of to come to teach me to include that even the one that's killed, you can't eat it? Right? That it's asur ba'ano. Obviously, it's asur ba'ano. But even before it was killed, it was asur ba'ano. Certainly, after it's killed, it's going to be asur ba'ano. So Maudetema, so Rish Lakish answers, it's actually not so simple. That's really not simple. It's not obvious at all. Because midid ava kochim timichayim asire. No, how does a korban work, friends? Who could tell me, how does a korban work? The way a korban works is you go to an animal, you say, hey animal, you're going to be a korban. At that point, it's hektish. It's asur ba'ano at that point. And then, once it is offered as a korban and is slaughtered, and there's the zrikas hadam, and as part of the slaughtering process, as part of the korban process, at that point, there's no longer me'ilah. At that point, it becomes mutter to eat. So, when it comes to korbanos, it's asur before it is killed, and only after it's killed does it become mutter to get benefit from. So I may have Taka thought the same thing, argues Rish Lakish over here, that from the time that these birds are taken, they're asur ba'ano, and it may have thought to say that once I kill one of them, it becomes mutter ba'ano. Kamashmala, no, it's not. It remains asur ba'ano. Eisvei, Rabbi Yechon asked another kasha in Rish Lakish. Shachato v'nimtzeis treifa. If you slaughter one of the birds, and it turns out that it is a treifa, and well, it doesn't turn out that it's a treifa. We're assuming right now that as part of the shechita, you made it a treifa, meaning it wasn't a treifa before. Before it was not a treifa. You messed up something when you slaughtered it, and now you made it a treifa as part of the shechita. Okay, so now it can't be used for the mitzvah. So yikach zug l'shniya. Okay, so bring a replacement for the one that you messed up. Ve'arishon mutar is ba'ano, and the first one is mutar ba'ano. So if you messed up one of them during the shechita, okay, so it can't be used for the mitzvah. Bring a replacement, but the one that you messed up is mutar ba'ano. You can feed it to the dogs or whatever. V'yisak adaitech, and if it enters your mind, Rish Lakish, mechayim asur, that it was asur when it was alive, which means that you took these two birds. They are both asura. You slaughter one of them. You mess up when you slaughter it and becomes a treifa. So you have to bring a replacement. And we're saying that the one that was a treifa now becomes mutar ba'ano. Why would it be mutar ba'ano? Harishona, my mutar is ba'ano. Why would it be mutar ba'ano? It was asur ba'ano beforehand. Why does slaughtering it and making it a treifa make it... Right, it was asur ba'ano beforehand. Why does slaughtering it and messing up and making it a treifa make it mutar ba'ano? Who made it mutar ba'ano? So Rish Lakish answers, Hachab ma'eskinin kagon shenimtzeis treifa bivnei me'el t'lochal ala kedusha klal. So says Rish Lakish, look, you were assuming that it was not a treifa in advance, and you made it a treifa during the shechita, but that's not correct. Actually, there was an issue with its intestinal tract beforehand, and it was actually already a treifa, and therefore, when you took these two birds and you thought that they were asur ba'ano because they were being used for the mitzvah, actually, all along, this one was a treifa, and it was unusable all along, and it was not actually made asur because it wasn't actually usable as a bird for a mitzvah, and that is why it was mutter all along, and that is why you just get a replacement, and the one that's a treifa is mutter ba'ano. But if it was not a treifa in it the whole time, so then it would be asur ba'ano. Eisvei. I believe this is another kasha on Rish Lakish. Eisvei, we have another kasha on Rish Lakish. Shachato shelo be'ezov v'shelo be'etzeres v'shelo b'shni tolas. Right, part of the slaughtering of this bird with the mitzvah is that it needs to be with hyssop and cedar and scarlet wool. So if you slaughter it without these things, Rabbi Yaakov Omer, hol v'huktzah l'mitzvasa asura. Says Rabbi Yaakov, look, since you slaughtered this bird in the context of the tzipori mitzora, you did it incorrectly, improperly, because you didn't have the eitzer, shnitolas, and ezov. But because it was as part of the mitzvah, it's asur. Reb Shimon Omer, hol v'nishchat hashlok mitzvasa muteris. Whereas Reb Shimon says, no, look, if you didn't slaughter it properly in the context of the mitzvah, so then it's permitted. Now, ad kan lo plige ela ma'asav shchita sheneruya shma shchita, ma'asav shchita sheneruya lo shma shchita. Look, the machlokas between Rabbi Yaakov and Reb Shimon is, does this shchita make it asur or not? Rabbi Yaakov says, yes, it does make it asur. Reb Shimon says, no, it remains mutter. But everyone agrees that in advance it was not asur, right? Meaning the assumption is up until the shechita it was mutter ba'ano. You then slaughtered it, but you didn't have the eitzer, shnitolas, and ezov. So the question is it now asur bana or does it remain mutar bana? But it was mutar bana up until that point, so it's a kasha in Rish Lakish who says that it's asur bana from the time that it's taken and for the Gemara Tanoihi. It's machlokas Tanoim. Look, yes, you're right. We just quoted a brisa where we saw Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Shimon who say that up until the shchita it is mutar bana. However, the Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel, we saw this brisa by the Besmedrash of Rabbi Shmuel earlier. Nemar machshir mechaper bifnim. Right, it says the asham mitzora, and it says other ashamos inside the Beis Hamikdash. Nemar machshir mechaper b'chutz. And we also have the bird, the tzipori mitzora, and egla rufa outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Ma machshir mechaper omer bifnim, also machshir kemechaper. Just like the korbanos inside the Beis Hamikdash, we treat an asham mitzora like any other asham. So af machshir mechaper omer b'chutz, also machshir kemechaper. So we said also outside of the Beis Hamikdash, we treat the tzipori mitzora in the same way that we treat the egla rufa, that it's asur bana even mei chaim. So we see it's taka machlokas tanoim. Some tanoim will say like Rabbi Yechanan that it's asur bana from the time of shchita. Some will say like Rish Lakish that it's already asur bana when it is still alive. Gufa, we said earlier, called tzipor tahora tochlu, that any pure bird eat. The Rabbi says Hamishulachas to include the tzipor mitzora, the bird of the mitzora that is sent away. It's permitted to be eaten. V'zesher lo sochlu meim. I'm sorry. So the first one, I'm sorry, called tzipor Torah tochelu. I don't know if it's tochelu, right? So to include the bird that's sent away, that you can eat it. V'zesher lo sochlu meim. These are the things you cannot eat. The Rabbi says Ashchuta comes to include the bird that was slaughtered as part of the mitzora birds. That is also, you cannot eat it. The ipochana, fact, maybe flip it around. Maybe the one that you can eat is the one that was slaughtered, and the one that you cannot eat, the one that you cannot get benefit from, is the one that's sent away. So we can have a few different answers to this kasha to show why the one that you can eat is the one that was sent away, and the one that is also is the one that was slaughtered. We don't find live animals that are asur. So the bird that you're going to send away is not going to be asur. Maskelev Shmuel by Rav Yitzchak Vilo. We don't find live animals that are asur. What about an animal that has been set aside for the getchkes, or was actually bowed down to as a getchke? An animal bowed down to as a getchke. So v'asire, and they're asur. So there you have it. Animals that are alive are asur. So ki asir legavo lehejet mishushay. To which the Gemara says, no, they're asur. You can't offer them as a korban, but you can get benefit for them. Maskef Rabbi Yirmiyah, but Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the kasha, arei roveh v'nirva. What about animals that were involved in a sexual act with a human? Be'edim, and there were witnesses. De'ba'alei chaim, they knew that they're alive. V'asir, and they're asur bano. So Elam Rabbi Yechanan says, Rabbi Yechanan mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yechai lo matzinu rov. Most animals are not asur. Most animals are mutter, and therefore, since most animals are mutter, so will the bird that is sent away be mutter as well, just like most animals are mutter. Yishmael Tano to Omar Kro. This says by Besmedrash Rabbi Yishmael that the pasuk says v'shilach al pnei asodeh. It says that you send it away on the face of the field. Kisodeh, like a field. Masodeh muteris afaynami muteris. Just like a field is permitted, so also the bird that you're sending away is permitted. Wait, 1 second. Asada is not coming to teach that the bird is permitted like a field. It's coming to teach the following. Don't stand in Jaffa and throw it into the Mediterranean Sea. Don't stand in Gabas and throw it into the desert. Don't stand outside of the city and throw it into the city. No, stand in a city and throw it outside of the wall of the city towards the fields. But the first one who learns out from Sadeh that the bird is mutar ba'ano. So, imken nichtov cross sadeh. My ha sadeh shma min atayt. You could have just said sadeh, and then it would be limited to the fact that you got to throw from inside a city to the field outside. But because it says ha sadeh, it's coming to teach additionally that it's like a field, that it's mutar ba'ano. Rava Amar lo Amar Torah shalach l'takalah. To which Rava says very practically, says the Torah is not going to tell you to send away a bird that maybe somebody will catch this bird and eat it if it's asur ba'ano. Right? The Torah is not going to say that the bird that you send away is asur ba'ano. You're not allowed to eat it. But who's tracking this bird? You're sending it away. How do you know that the next day some guy is going to find it in his bird trap, he's going to eat it? He had no clue that it was actually asur ba'ano. That's crazy. So therefore Rava says, from the fact that the Torah says to send it away, obviously, it's going to be mutar ba'ano, because somebody might end up catching that bird, and who's to know that it was a bird of a mitzorah? So clearly it's going to be mutar ba'ano for practical reasons. Beside Nazir, the Mishnah had said that a fellow cannot be mekadosh a fellow with the hair of a Nazir. Minol, and how do I know this? The pasuk says, Kadosh yiyeh gadel peres sairosho, that his hair is going to be kadosh. Gidulo yiyeh kadosh, that his hair is kadosh, and therefore you can't get benefit from it, and you can't be mekadosh a woman with it. Ima kodesh tofes is dam v'yotze l'chulin avseir sair nazir tofes is dam v'yotze l'chulin. But 1 second, kodesh, as we know, right? If I makdish my lawnmower, so I can then transfer the value onto money. Now the money is hektish, and I give the money to the Beis Hamikdash. Yet we know that our Mishnah had said that if you sell this hair and get money for it, that money is not, right? You can use the money to be mekadesh your fellow with it. So mikarinan kodesh, kadosh karinan. We don't say it's kodesh, which would imply that it's hektish. It says kadosh, which means that it's also ba'ano, but it's not exactly like hektish in terms of being tofes as dom of v'yotze l'chulin. Okay. Rather, even if you sell it, the hair would remain also ba'ano, but the money would be permitted. But Peter Chomer, with a firstborn donkey, right? You have a firstborn donkey, you have to either redeem it with a sheep, or you kill it. So name of mastis is lo Reb Shimon. So let's say that our Mishnah is not like Reb Shimon. The Tana is within the price. A Peter Chomer, a firstborn donkey, before it's killed. Also ba'anoya divri Reb Yehuda, it's immediately also ba'anoya until you redeem it with a sheep. The Reb Shimon Matir, Reb Shimon says it's mutar ba'ano. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabbi Barvua, Lachar Arifa v'Divrei Akol, says Rav Nachman, Amar Rabbi Barvua, that we're talking about after, if you don't redeem the donkey and you kill it, so then everyone agrees it's also ba'ano. You cannot be mekadesh a woman with it. Basa b'cholav, if you have milk mixed together with meat, so it's also ba'ano. Aminol, and how do you know it's also ba'ano? The Tana Dever Bishmal. It says in the Torah, do not cook a kid in the milk of its mother. It says in the Torah 3 times. Don't mix milk and meat. We learn that in the Torah 3 times. Echad isra achila, one is don't eat it. V'echad isra anoya, the other ones don't get benefit from it. V'echad isra bishul, the third one is don't cook it. Don't eat it, don't get benefit from it, don't cook it. There you go. So you can't get benefit from basar b'cholav, you cannot be mekadesh a woman with it. Masnis and our Mishnah is not like the following brisa, not like the following Tana. The Tana is learning in a brisa. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda Omer. So the Masoras Hashas points out that it's Reb Shimon ben Yehuda Omer Reb Shimon, in the name of Reb Shimon, as we're going to see. I think we're going to see it later. I think we're going to see it later today. That Reb Shimon, this is Reb Shimon's opinion, that Omer basar b'cholav asur b'achilu mutar ba'ano. The Reb Shimon says that basar b'cholav is actually, you're not allowed to eat it, but you can get benefit from it. It's mutar ba'ano, according to Reb Shimon. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Ki am kadosh ata l'Hashem Elokecha l'svashuk li b'chalev imoy. It says by basar b'cholav that you are an am kadosh. Ulhalanu omer, and it says by nevela v'anshe kodesh tiyun, that you will be holy people to me. Malalan asur b'achilu mutar ba'ano. So just like by nevela, you're not allowed to eat it, but you can get benefit from it. It says lakelev tashlichun, also you can give it to your dog. So the same thing would apply to basar b'cholav. You can't eat it, but you can get benefit from it. I think we're going to go weiter over here. As well as chulin that was slaughtered in the azar, right? Meaning in the Beis Hamikdash, right? You slaughter korbanos. You don't slaughter your barbecue in the Beis Hamikdash, right? Don't go to the Beis Hamikdash with a sheep, kill it, and then bring it home for your barbecue. Don't do that. Kill it in your own house. So how do we know that chulin shenishchatu ba'azara, that barbecue meat that was slaughtered in the azar, is also ba'anoya? So how do we know this? Amr Reb Yechanan mishum Reb Meir, says Reb Yechanan Reb Meir, from Reb Meir. Amr Tereb shchot, the Torah says slaughter li b'shali, my stuff do in the Beis Hamikdash, v'shalcha b'shalcha, your stuff slaughter in your house. Ma'shali b'shalcha also, just like shchutei chutz, just like a korban that is slaughtered outside of the Beis Hamikdash is also bano. Avshalcha b'shali, Aser. Also, if you slaughter your barbecue in the Beis Hamikdash, it's going to be Aser ba'ana. Ima shali b'shalcha anush kares, av shalcha b'shali anush kares. So, fact the Gemara, but 1 second. When it comes to shchutei chutz, if you slaughter a korban outside of the Beis Hamikdash, so then you chayiv kares. So maybe I'll say then, if you slaughter your barbecue meat in the Beis Hamikdash, you're also chayiv kares. On Makra, the pasuk says, "Vel pesach oil moed le'avio lahakriv korban laHashem v'nichros." That the pasuk says by shchutei chutz, when you slaughter a korban outside the Beis Hamikdash, that you didn't bring the korban to the Beis Hamikdash, lahakriv korban laHashem v'nichros. Al korban anush kares, it's dafka for shchutei chutz, dafka for a korban that was slaughtered outside of the Beis Hamikdash, chayiv kares. Al chulin shenishchatu ba'azara ein anush kares. But for chulin that was slaughtered in the azara, for your barbecue meat that was slaughtered in the azara, you won't be chayiv kares. Also ba'ana, but you won't be chayiv kares. Ika lemifrach mal shali b'shalcha sheken anush kares. But fact the Gemara, 1 second. I can't accept this drasha. I can't accept that chulin ba'azara is aser ba'ana because we learn it out from shchutei chutz, because after all they're different. After all, it's an important distinction that shchutei chutz has a chiyuv kares. Slaughtering a korban outside of Beis Hamikdash is a chiyuv kares associated, which makes it in a different league, and you cannot learn out chulin shenishchatu ba'azara, your barbecue meat in the Beis Hamikdash, you can't learn out from shchutei chutz, because shchutei chutz is in a league of its own. It has a chiyuv kares, masha ein kain by chulin shenishchatu ba'azara. Elo Omer Abai, rather says Abai mehacha, we learn it out from here. Ushchato v'shachatoso v'shachatoso. Skip the next 3 words. That's what it goes. Vitzionim says, so we'll do it. So it says 3 psukim by a korban shlomim. One says ushchato, and then we have 2 of them that say really 2 sections of the Torah that say v'shachat oso. So matamud lomar, how come that it says this? Wow. So because the pasuk says Tigirchak mimcha makom, that the pasuk says that when you get to Eretz Yisrael, when they didn't get to Eretz Yisrael, now you can eat. Right? Rashi points out in the Dibra Maskul Lefishenemar Kirchak v'Zavachta, it's like kind of right to the left. It's like to the left of where we are right now. 4 lines into that Rashi, it says Lefisheba midbar lo hutru lechol shum behema ru'uya la'akrova ela yidei akrova. In the desert, any animal that was fit for offering, for example, a sheep that didn't have any mums, you could not use it for a barbecue. You would have to offer it as a korban. But once the Yin got to Eretz Yisrael, now I'm back in the Gemara, once the Yin got to Eretz Yisrael, it says, right, they were allowed to eat barbecues without offering a korban. You're going to live far away from the Beis Hamikdash, and you can make a barbecue. That if you're making a barbecue, kill the animal in your own house, don't kill the animal in the Beis Hamikdash. Prat lechulin shelo yishchatu ba'azara, don't slaughter your barbecue meat in the azara. So all I know is that a healthy animal that can be used as a korban is aser to slaughter in the azara. Minayin l'rabos balei mumin. So how do I know that even an unhealthy animal, right, an animal that has a mum, how do I know that that's also a problem of shchutei chutz, of chulin shenishchatu ba'azara? My ba'ani is balei mumin shekain min hamachsher. Well, because it's the same species, right? You have a sheep that's healthy, you have a sheep that has a mum. They're both sheep. And just like the sheep that's healthy is chulin shenishchatu ba'azara, you can't do chulin shenishchatu ba'azara, so the same applies to a sheep with a mum. Minan derabos esachaya. How do you know to include wild animals like deer? So my ba'ani esachaya shehi b'shchita kibehema. Well, just like a sheep, you slaughter. So also a deer. If you want to eat a deer, you have to slaughter it. So my ba'ani esachaya shehi b'shchita. Fine, kibehema. Minan derabos esaofis. How do I know to include birds that you have to make sure not to have chulin shenishchatu ba'azara by birds? And because birds, Rashi points out, right, she'ein shchitasim meforeshes b'Torah. It doesn't specifically say shchita in the Torah. So I don't know that birds are also a problem of chulin shenishchatu ba'azara. Tam lomar ushchato v'shachat oso. That we learn it out from these 3 extra psukim. Rashi points out, right, in the bottom, the second to bottom line of Rashi says, where am I? Chad l'chaya v'chad l'ofis v'chad l'isur achila. Okay, so be'etzim we learn out from ushchato v'shachatoso that shchutei chutz applies to birds as well. Yachol lo yishchot v'imshachat yei muter. Is it possible? Okay, so you're not allowed to slaughter these animals in the Beis Hamikdash. If you're having a barbecue, don't slaughter the animals in the Beis Hamikdash. But maybe if you did, b'di'evet, if you did, then they're permitted. Right, the pasuk says that that the Beis Hamikdash will be far away from you, and it says over there, I just read the pasuk. So it says, "V'zavachta ve'achalta, ma'ashata zoveach berichuk makom ata ochel ve'ata ochel ma'ashata zoveach b'makom karev." That when you're making a barbecue, you can only eat the meat that you slaughtered at your house, not chulin meat that you slaughtered in the azar. Prad l'chulin shenishchatu b'azar, to the exclusion of chulin that was slaughtered in the azar. Ve'ein li elo tamimin. Now, when we're talking about the Isser Achila, all I know is healthy animals. We're going to go through the same drasha like we had a minute ago. Haruyim likarv, that could be offered. Minayin l'rabos ba'alei mumin. How do I know that also if it has a blemish, it's also ba'achila? My ba'ani ba'alei mumin shekain min ha'machshir, because it's the same species as the ones that is healthy, right? A healthy sheep, a sheep with a mum. They're both sheep. They're both by chulin shenishchatu bazar. You can't eat it. How do I know to include like a deer, for example? We include a deer because it's chiyuv shchita, just like an animal. How do I know to include birds? We learn off from the drasha. Okay, fine. So we see that by all of these animals and birds, you cannot eat it. Is it possible that you can get benefit from it? That okay, don't slaughter, but if you do, you can't eat it, but maybe you give it to your dog. Talmud Lomar, lakelev tashlichun oso. It says by nevela, lakelev tashlichun oso, that you can feed it to your dog. Also, atamashlich lakelev, you can feed nevela to your dog, v'atamashlich chulin shenishchatu b'hazara, but you cannot throw chulin shenishchatu b'hazara to your dog. You cannot get benefit from it. Ashka chinu, Mar Yehuda l'Rav Yosef, Mar Yehuda found Rav Yosef, u'Rav Shmuel ber Rabba bar Chana. And Shmuel bar Rabba bar Chana, that they were sitting by the entrance to the Beis Medrash of Rabbah, I guess in Pumbedisa. Amalu, and Mar Shmuel says to Rav Yosef and Shmuel bar Rabba bar Chana, Tanya, we learn in the Baisa Mekadosh with Peter Chomer. A fellow's Mekadosh a fellow with Peter Chomer, which we said is also Bano, but Basu B'cholov, with milk and meat, Uv'chulin shenishchatu ba'azara, or chulin that was sold in Azara. Reb Shimon omer mikudeshes. Reb Shimon Taka says it's okay. You hear that? By Peter Chomer, by Basu B'cholov, right? Because we saw by Peter Chomer that Reb Shimon says that as long as it's alive, it's right until it's killed, it's mutter ba'ano. Basu B'cholov, we had said earlier. That's why I'd said that's the, even though the Gemara didn't say it earlier. It said Reb Yehuda Reb Shimon, I think. It said Reb Shimon ben Yehuda, but there's other gears that say Reb Shimon, because we're saying over here that Reb Shimon says that Basu B'cholov is mutter ba'ano. And also by chulin shenishchatu ba'azara, Reb Shimon says Omer mikudeshes, that she's mikudeshes because it's mutter ba'ano. Chacham say in all these cases ene mikudeshes. Alma chulin shenishchatu ba'azara Reb Shimon lav d'oraisa. So we see that according to Reb Shimon, chulin shenishchatu ba'azara is not midoraisa, is not also midoraisa ba'ano. V'aminu, we have a kasha. Reb Shimon says Reb Shimon chulin shenishchatu ba'azara yisarfu, that chulin shenishchatu ba'azara needs to be burnt. V'chein chaya shenishchatu ba'azara, as well as a chaya that is slaughtered in the azara needs to be burnt. Ishtiku. So Rav Yosef and Shmuel bar Rabba bar Chana were stumped. Also the Kama de Rabba, so they posed the kasha to Rabba. Right, according to Reb Shimon, is right, these things mutter bano or also bano. So Amar Lahu Palgo Ukminchi, he says, I see that the dissenter that Mar Yehuda has sort of stumped you. My skin here. What are we talking about when we say that you could be mekadesh a woman with chulin shenishchatu ba'azara? Kigon shenishchat avnimsa treifa, that if you slaughtered it and it turned out to be a treifa for Reb Shimon the Taimei, so Reb Shimon, according to his reasoning, the Tanya that we learn in a braysa, ashochet is a treifa, that if a fellow slaughters a treifa, v'chein ashochet v'nimtzei is treifa. Also, if you slaughter an animal and it turns out to be a treifa, zev is a chulin ba'azara. Both of them are chulin ba'azara. Reb Shimon matir bano, v'chacham osim. Reb Shimon says it's mutar bano. The chacham say it's also. So because it turned out to be a treifa, that is why he says that you can be mekadesh a fellow with it because it was a treifa. But in general, Reb Shimon would say that it would be also banoah. Friends, that was Daf Nun Zayin Masechta Kiddushin. We went weiter in discussing these different things that are also banoah that you cannot be mekadesh a fella with. Peace out.